Let's do it.
Hi. We just listen. I don't. The reason I understand the thing about figuring out perfect lighting is because for comedy, I would be that way about sound. Like with the audience, 100%. So like I understand.
So I had a show on E, like we did 8 episodes called If We're Being Honest, and I interviewed Joe Coy for it, and he talked about. I believe, I don't know if it made the cut, but he talked about shooting his comedy special, I think for Netflix, and how important the sound was. Is this a Joe Coy interview, or am I confusing this with something else? But yes, with comedy, he talked about microphones in different parts of the theater, so he could really capture the laughter and the way the crowd was, and so. All of that's important, though.
But people have this thought.
Comedians are always like, it doesn't sound like we got as much laughter as there was.
Because you're on stage and you're getting the best version of the laughter. You're getting the center point of the mic. And there was one time we did a sketch a long time ago, and I was super new to stand-up. Super new. So very sensitive. Unlike now, where I'm cool, calm, and collected. And I said to them when we got the video back, I was like... Something is wrong with this video because I recall it killing a lot harder than this. And man, I got roasted for it.
No, it wasn't just you. There was other times other people did it in the group too. But I think it's always funny.
So you were in a comedy sketch group together?
Yeah. Uncle Function. But sometimes what pro people will do, I mean, it's crazy. They go, we need to make sure you can understand the comedian. So they really prioritize the comedian's mic over the laughter. And like as a comedian, you're like, this is terrible. It sounds like you're
so
bombing.
loud compared to what people are doing. Yeah.
I did
but
a Netflix.
You're a slut for laughs, though. So is that accurate as a comedian? Like, it feels accurate.
So.
A slut for laughs.
A slut for laughs. Well, it's also just like. You're so scared people are going to think that you're bombing at home. And if the worst is you feel like you killed and then you look at the video and no one believes you if you say, I swear to God, in this room, I did well.
Yeah.
Like I did this Netflix 10 minutes and there was like a dark joke in there and it got like, when that balance was mixed, it sounded like there was silence in the room.
Yeah.
And I was just reacting like... walking around, taking, and I was like, God damn.
So this is a Netflix thing. So they didn't. This is the control thing. So there was an episode of a lip sync battle that I did. I did it twice.
Oh, cool.
The first time I did. I did 2 songs with the usual format of lip sync battle. I did Nicki Minaj, Roman's Revenge.
This was recent?
No, this was 10 years ago.
This was after the CPAC?
This was before her MAGA turn. I did Roman's Revenge by Nicki Minaj, and then I did Lose My Breath by Destiny's Child. And I
wish everyone was like Kid Rock, Ball with a Ball. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm old enough where I actually remember liking that song too.
Oh, well,
and it's unfortunately
too.
very catchy. Like you just said it, and now it's going to be in my head, and I really kind of hate you for that right now.
That's the part that always comes to my head.
Oh my God,
we've done that so many times on this podcast. We have to stop.
It was. When I saw the footage of Kid, it was
Mr. Rock.
It didn't quite hold up. Anyway, I digress. So the second time I did lip sync battle, it was for the launching of Paramount Network, and they wanted to do a big sort of spectacular. It was a Michael Jackson tribute, and I know. And Neil Patrick Harris, Roderick B. Henson, blah blah blah, and I literally was a week before they did it, and they asked me months earlier, and then I guess they decided to go with someone else. And a week before they asked me, and all the songs I wanted were taken. I ended up doing Dirty Diana. But during rehearsal, I filmed the rehearsal, like I filmed the camera, like the monitors during rehearsal and what the cameras were doing. And I remember giving notes, like talking to the cameraman about like, okay, we need this and we need that. And the performance happened. And the cameraman he just kind of was Like he missed, like I had specifically choreographed moments, and he just went somewhere else, or the camera cut away from him because they wanted to do a big spectacular, so there were dancers and like all these crazy people swirling around, and they cut away from like this. I had these beautiful moments of choreography that they would just cut away from, and Kim Kimball did my hair that day, and Kim Kimball did Beyonce's hair for many years. I think she still does. And she was like, that's why Beyonce checks every camera lens, but you don't get to them. I had no control over how it was shot. This is basically, I stepped into the production that they already had devised. They wanted to launch Paramount, so they wanted this big production. And the first time I had done Lip Sync Battle, I had a lot of control. I actually choreographed that Destiny's Child number, and they let me in the choreography. It was great. It was collaborative, and I felt really good about it. And this other one felt rushed, and I'm terrible. I'm terrified of heights, so I had to go up this. They had this thing because they wanted production value where you stand in this thing. It's very Michael Jackson actually. You stand in the thing, and you hold on, and then it just like goes into the air, and I'm irrationally afraid of heights. So it was just it. I need to be free. Like I need the freedom to like do my thing, and having too many cues where I'm going up, and then also the floor. And this, I think the video, I don't know if the whole video is online, but also the number starts Dirty Diana, and I come up through the floor.
Let's find it. What Dirty
Diana by Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so I come up through the floor. I think they cut it online. I don't know. But I'm supposed to come up through the floor, and like we rehearsed it several times on stage, but during the performance, this was live TV too. It was a live event. I'm coming up, and the elevator thing just stops halfway. And it's live TV. So like I start crawling. I like crawl out of the thing. Luckily I stretch. I crawl out of the thing on live TV, and it already like that's the start of the number. And I'm just kind of like, I'm pissed, but I'm trying to like rock it and work it and get, and then so like that just diminishes my time to like work it. I have a mic stand, and I go up in the thing, and then like the end is where I kind of get to give it, and then the cameraman didn't. And then I found out later on afterwards that the power, this is at which theater was this? I think they do the Oscars there, but like the power had gone out. So the power had gone out in that, but just for the stuff that lifts. Yeah,
oh my
this
gosh,
is
okay,
it.
Let's find
but
it.
am I already up? Like we
might have to cut the music, but play it.
This is after I'm already up. So can you go back? Is this the only one?
No, it's just
they cut it. They cut
their mistake.
Oh, this I'm going to the wide.
Yeah, that's where I went up in the thing, and I was terrified, but I was trying to like rock it out. And all
Jesus
that
Christ,
production.
This is huge. I can't believe. Why didn't this show keep going? There's so many videos where it's like, this was a fun show.
This was less fun. Like it's just it's that the only clip online. So, but yeah, it was. I had to crawl out. It's a lot of things went wrong.
Did you see the Michael Jackson movie yet?
I have not.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it. Well, the New York Times did a really good episode just about how much in debt he was when he died, and then
I think we knew this. Yeah,
but then when it was about like basically.
Did you see the movie?
No, I didn't see that.
You just watched some New York Times podcast on it.
Yeah, I've watched other movies about him, not the new one, not the ones by the estate per se.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested.
But it was
Janet isn't even involved. Why? I mean, why?
Yeah, that is strange.
Yeah.
That is. But
it's
basically,
all about Janet.
HBO took Finding Neverland off their platform because Michael Jackson did a movie, a film, a concert taping with him like 30 years ago, and there was a non-disparagement clause in that contract, and that's how they got it off HBO. And then at the same time, they filmed an ending to this movie originally that kind of really showed one of the parents of one of the kids who would claim abuse as like a villainous thing.
But I think the kids had non-disclosures too.
They had to reshoot this whole thing, and now they're going to make a sequel to it. And
wait, they're making a sequel to this?
Oh yeah, I think it was always going to be a two-parter.
Because it ended in 1988 in this new version, right?
Well, they have to show the part where he saves the kids from Epstein's Island. They got to include that. And listen, believe me, I'm hoping for that part.
The movie's out, right? Did it do well at the box office?
It's about to hit half. I think maybe 3/4.
That
of a
estate
billion?
is making so much money, and like, but I mean, this sounds really cruel, but the brilliant thing about like the Michael Jackson estate now is that he lived a very extravagant lifestyle. He was in debt, so now there's just kind of all profit. Well, I guess for whoever is partaking in the estate, so they have to guard that intellectual property.
Yeah,
there's a video of him. Michael Jackson. He's going around like a store, like a fine antique store, and he's like, "I'll take that one and that one and that one." It's one of these. You're like, "Oh, you see how that debt happened, despite all the riches."
And paying off parents too.
Sure.
$20 million here, $20 million there. That's allegedly.
Well, we talked about it recently, and it was a clip.
I didn't think we'd be going here.
And it was shocking to me. Obviously, Michael Jackson's very popular still, but I was even naive to how popular in the comments. And what funniest thing, one of the top comments was someone that was like, "Gianmarco, I'm so disappointed in you. I used to be a fan." And I look, and it's a Michael Jackson impersonator.
We underestimated how many of our fans are Michael Jackson
are
impersonators.
actually just full Michael Jackson impersonators.
And we apologize to them.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, Michael's huge, and
We don't even.
God, yeah. There's
we
so
don't
much
even
to
have
say.
to.
I mean, it's, and I'm sure it's fun. I'm sure the movie's
never,
fun.
I guess, never proven in a court of law, I guess is what all we can say.
Sure, and I think if there's one thing that we've learned is that if it's not proven in a court of law, nobody did anything wrong.
Because that's how it all works.
Yeah.
I do think there's probably some fun scenes in the movie. I think a lot about.
Can I pause?
Probably some great music.
Can I pause this for a second and say how excited I am to be like here and watching, especially how animated you are in real life. I've watched tons of your stand up online, and I watched the podcast. I'm such a fan, so I'm like just kind of geeking out at like.
That's very kind.
That's so kind.
Gianmarco.
Yeah.
And I want to say your name, Gianmarco, and I want to say Gianmarco, he, him, girl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is The Downside.
1, 2, 3. You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
By the way, we're here. Gianmarco Soresi, co-host Russell Daniels, and the one and only Laverne Cox. So lucky to have her here on the pod. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is my camera. Hi.
Ask away, please.
No, the musical theater of it all. Like, I probably should know this, but what's your favorite musical or top 2 or 3? Do you have
Falsettos is number 1, and then it always fluctuates. Right now, my favorite.
Why is it falsettos? Why?
Honestly, I think a couple reasons. One, I listened to it like something intense happened in my life, like the weekend I listened to it.
Okay.
And this was when I was like reading the
So
libretto along with
cast.
me.
It was cast albums. Okay.
Cast albums. I think
How old
it was.
were you?
It was like my 14th or 15th birthday.
Okay. That's very important. Like those are the years. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about. Are you super familiar or very?
I know it. I don't know it really well though.
There's something about Marvin's narcissism, his desire to have a whole family unit while still. He broke up his family, so there's something about the divorce of it all that I really connect to. There's something about the Jewishness. I wasn't raised with a big Jewish community, but it opens with 4 Jews in a room bitching, and it's like bitching is what I relate to when it comes to Judaism, and. And then of course there's this degree where it's like, you know, he's a gay man, but there's something about there's something about being around gay culture that, despite, you know, he is gay or bi in the movie, but there's something that I connect to with it. So I'm sure if I ever played this role, some people would roll their eyes, but it really is the narcissism. He opens with, "I want a tight knit family."
Like
he goes,
clinical narcissism, or like just like what
he sings.
Define
I
narcissism.
want it all. I want it all, and he just
is that narcissism or ambition?
Ambition, but it's at the expense of other. He wants his ex-wife, who he left for his best friend to stay a part of his life. And when she leaves him, or when she starts dating his therapist, he goes, how the fuck could you do this? And it's like, well,
she's dating his ex-wife is dating his therapist.
yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't I remember this? Like I saw Falsetto's Rick a really long time ago. So
I saw, and it's more people know it now because of the revival. But this was the original Broadway cast that I listened to, and there was a time where it felt like not everyone knows this show.
so it's a little like, oh, I'm gonna pick my favorite musical as being something a little bit more niche,
but I love it.
Elite.
I could sing the whole show. William Finn,
Are you a
love
tenor?
William Finn. No, I mean trying to be is how I got this fucking surgery, mind you.
I know a lot about trying to stretch my vocal range.
Yeah.
I've been singing up there for.
You studied opera.
I still do.
You still do.
You still do.
I'm a student of opera. I will never, I'm singing. I've sung and I will sing again, but I don't think of myself as a singer. But I do love studying it though.
Can I ask what part did you sing when you first started?
I was bass baritone.
Bass baritone.
Yes.
Like what would you
Super low.
comfortably hit? What note would you hit in a show?
Like D's were high for me. D above, middle C was super high for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you could go low.
But very low, and I still can. There's a video of me, and this you can play because it's public domain, and it's a Schubert Lied. Do you know anything about opera? Lied is basically a song in German.
You would know more.
A German Lied called Der Tod und das Mädchen, Death and the Maiden, that I sing that first part in mezzo soprano and the second part in bass baritone.
Whoa.
It's the death part is very creepy and very, it's right. A lot of bass baritones and bassists sing it. Marian Anderson sang it as well. She was a contralto, but it's a lead that a lot of basses and bass baritones sing.
So can I ask, when you transitioned, and were you singing at the time? Was singing a part of your life at that time?
Oh yeah. So I started my current opera teacher has been I've had other voice teachers over the years, but we started working together I went into my first voice lesson with him. His name is Ira Siff. He's a native New Yorker, and I went into my first lesson with him in 1996. So it's been 30 years.
Wow.
This year. And when I was at Indiana University, I took my first voice lessons there. I transferred to Marymount. I continued to study there. And then I discovered that I think I was Varla Jean Merman or Shaquita. I heard for the first time. Varla Jean Merman is a drag queen who's still around, but she was insanely popular in the early 90s in New York. I moved to New York in 1993, heard Varla Jean, and I was just like, you can do that. And then that Farinelli movie came out, and so I found out about countertenors, and I was like, oh,
what is a countertenor? Is it a different? Some people are countertenors, and some it's not something you can work on. It
is. So basically, a countertenor is it's someone assigned male at birth. Usually identifying as male too, but assigned male at birth who sings in their treble space, but it's usually singing with falsetto, and it's usually a reinforced falsetto is what most countertenors are using. And countertenors can be altos, mezzos, or sopranos. And there are some countertenors now who are sopranos. Several. My Instagram feed, I follow several countertenors, and there's 3 sopranos in the mix.
But anyone could be theoretic,
yes, but one was trained for it, and
it's not like in the olden days where they
It's not like castrati.
Yeah. If I could go back, if I could be a castrati, I could finally sing Roger and
for
Rents.
me, I was like, if I could have, and that's what I think about a lot, because I think a lot about the trans kids who don't go through puberty, where they have puberty blockers, and puberty blockers are basically like a chemical castration, and so I wonder, the one girl who sings, what's her name, who sang with the song with Sam Smith, can't think of her name right now.
Which song?
They won a Grammy. Why can't I think of her name? It'll come to me. Blonde girl. Look it up for us, Christian. Please. Sam Smith, Grammy Award-winning trans girl, blonde, beautiful. She has a beautiful voice, but her voice didn't drop. So
That's like Ethel Cain's voice.
Kim Petras?
Kim Petras. Yes.
Okay.
Kim Petras, didn't go through a masculinizing puberty, so her voice didn't drop. So that's what happened with countertenors. So I've often thought about, like, if a trans girl who didn't go through puberty that would masculinize her, what would, if she sang opera, what would it sound like? Because it would be sort of the modern day castrati, if there was such a thing. And the castrati were kind of more of a.
Can you imagine how bad you'd be if you were a castrati? You're like, I could have just done puberty blockers. I didn't have to do all this.
Well, puberty blockers didn't exist in the 15th century.
What age do you think they did castrati? Do you think they established you were a good singer first?
Yes.
Or do you think they did?
So yes.
That's tough. You're like, hey, you're good, and you're like, no, I'm not fine. I'm not that good.
the sad thing about it was technically illegal in Italy at the time, and it was mostly Italy. But all over Europe.
So you said legal?
It was illegal.
Illegal.
It was illegal, but parents they got into an accident. The child got into an accident, but at the height of
what a specific accident.
But it was a lot of poor families at the time. If their child showed promise in singing, they would like. So there were a lot of boys who were castrated who maybe didn't have great careers, but they would end up singing in church. And the last living castrati, Alessandro Morecci, we have a recording of him from like the early 1900s, and he's past his prime. He's singing Bach Gounod's Ave Maria, and it's a kind of it's sort of a tortured sound. It's early recording too, so we don't really know how a countertenor sounded. In the Farinelli movie, they kind of like imagined the way the countertenor would sound. We have the sheet music that Farinelli would improvise, because in Baroque music, there's improvisation is encouraged. So like these beautiful lines of fioritura and coloratura that singers would improvise, and then they would eventually write it out. Or the composer Handel and composers of the day encouraged improvisation. Actually,
we imagine it probably sounded like Michael Jackson when he was a kid.
But what happened with the countertenor though is once they would the procedure would happen, and then they would continue to grow, and when you read about countertenors, they would say they would have the chest capacity of an adult male, and the lung capacity with the treble sound. So it's not quite the same as because Michael's voice broke. And there's some people whose voices don't drop. If you know Alex Newell, if you're a Broadway person. Alex Newell was assigned male at birth, and it's a soprano, but belts brilliantly, and Alex's voice just didn't drop during puberty. And Alex has you've heard Alex Newell sing?
Yeah.
Of course, my God.
I mean, we did a show together. Finally, there was the Breaking the Binary Theater did a one night only production of The Drowsy Chaperone at Carnegie Hall last year, October 20th. And Alex played is it Janet? I think that's her name. In Drowsy, it's my. I need
to re-listen. I haven't.
Drowsy is a fun show. The music is I love the music. It's very sort of old school Broadway. It's technically set in like the 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
But obviously was done in the
It feels like when my career collapses, a regional tour of me as the man in chair. Isn't that like that?
Yeah.
That feels like in my
that was like the special guest part in the
future.
You would actually be great as man in chair. The music is just very old school, sort of that traditional Broadway sound that I really love, like a pre-Rodgers and Hammerstein, but it has an old Hollywood
musical?
It's so hard. Let me think. I don't want to be like.
You can give a few.
I have a few. Like I love Color Purple. I love Color Purple, and I love the music, and I just love the story so much. Like I loved the original movie so much, and I love the book. The book is just I love Color Purple, and Celia's Journey just it gets me in my gut. And I'm this new Lloyd Webber convert. Lately, I just saw Jellicle Ball, and I was never really a fan of Cats.
No, I don't know how anyone. I cannot imagine, having only seen that version of it. I cannot imagine I would stay through the second act if everyone was just literally cats. and there wasn't a drag ball element to it. Or
have you seen Angelica Ball?
Yes, I have.
Is it not amazing?
It's so
much better. What I think is, I think the vision for the show, you may disagree, I think the vision for the show is brilliant. It like makes so much sense. Like I think it makes more sense than the original to me.
You know, I'd see even more though, a version where they're just people. I think that would make it truly one of the greatest pieces of theater. I loved it all, except the whole time I was like, why are they cats, though?
Yeah. You mean
because it was inspired by T.S. Eliot.
Change all the lyrics?
Yeah. That one poem a long time ago. That's fine.
Yeah. But the music,
they called it people.
But what I was surprised by, because they really didn't change the score, is how much I loved the music. And then I went back and listened to the parts of the original score, and I was like, I think it needed soul, because most of the cast is like Black and Latin, and they're still singing and like, legit Broadway sound for the most part, with a few exceptions. And I think that it needed some soul. Not to disparage any of their, original cast members, but I love the music. And then I loved the Sunset Boulevard production with Nicole. Mm-hmm. Mostly, it was Nicole. But I also am obsessed with Sunset Boulevard, and I'm obsessed with Norma Desmond. Like, I saw the movie as a teenager and immediately connected to Norma Desmond. And so I've always had this intense relationship to aging, to sort of being a recluse and being aloof and
even from a young age
and delusional. Yeah,
I think aspirationally want to be a recluse.
So I have a book coming out, a memoir called Transcendent, that comes out June 9th, and in the book I talk a lot about my childhood, and when I was a kid, grew up in Mobile, Alabama, I was convinced that I was supposed to be a star, that I was put here to be a star.
What age are we talking? Like moment you can remember?
Yeah, 3-5 years old. I wanted to start taking dance lessons at 5, and begged my mother to put me in dance classes, and she said no. At one point I was in karate. I was like, I did not ask for karate. I asked for jazz, ballet, tap.
Were you doing all this with your twin brother?
Well, my brother never took dance classes, but he was a visual artist. He painted and drew very realistically from a very early age. And
were you identical?
We were and are identical.
Yeah, forgive me, I don't even know. But yes, identical.
Yes.
Were your interests always
different?
He's not a dancer. He does
karate, master
both,
karate.
Though
master.
The interesting thing is he got a degree in visual art from the San Francisco Art Institute, and then I went to Yale for a year, got into Yale graduate school for visual art, and then he dropped out and started a rock band, and moved back to San Francisco. And now he's solo, and he taught himself piano, and he's a countertenor, and so he sings. And
really,
yeah, he's so you
ended up having more convergence in terms of
in terms of the performance piece, but he incorporates installation and sculpture and visual aspects into his performance.
Fascinating
as well.
that he's a countertenor. Because countertenor, I don't know, there's just an inherent amount of femininity to being a counter. I mean, it's singing
It depends.
It's just singing different. It's fascinating. Because did you do any twin studies? I feel like every identical twin, did the scientists ever stop and go hey, because all the psychology classes, they'd be we studied
did I
twins.
take part in a twin
Did
study?
they ever? Yeah, I feel like every identical twin, they go nature versus nurture debates.
Yes, that is something that happens. And then I think about, obviously I'm trans, and my brother does not identify as trans, but my brother does. He coined the term Negro Goth, and he's obsessed with Rick Owens.
The term Negro.
Can you maybe pull up a photo of M. Lamar? Maybe there's on his Instagram. He's always rocking some Rick on Insta, and you can see my brother. So my brother's he when he moved to San Francisco, he really connected with the punk rock goth scene. So he has this very punk rock sensibility. Negro goth is his milieu, and it's a whole thing that he created. And he has a book. It's a manifesto of sorts. He's
manifesto. What do you mean?
What
it's not always negative.
I've only hear it in a negative context.
That is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's more of a maybe maybe manifesto isn't the right word, but it's like
Wow.
it's his treatise. It's more of a treatise on what Negro Gothic is.
Damn.
So that's my brother.
Wow.
So yeah.
When you were kids, were you like inseparable, doing the same things, or were you quite different?
We were always ourselves. What the brilliant thing about having a twin, the best thing about it, when we were kids, like I would say we were close, but like we didn't share things. It was like people, because I've done a few interviews with people who've read my books, so they were like, "Did you talk to your brother about like these feelings?" And I was like, "No, we didn't do that." But like you're a product of divorce, but I'm a product of a single mother who was worked 4 jobs and he was completely stressed out and just disconnected from like any kind of emotion. There was no tenderness, there was no affection, there was no talking about feelings, there was no space for feelings growing up. And I realized in adulthood with love that my mother has a little OCD and a lot of unprocessed trauma. So our childhood was very much like it was a lot of survival mode in relationship to her. So we didn't do that.
That's the karate.
Like
she's like, you just need to learn how to fight. And
she would. This is in the book too. She would always, because I was bullied like relentlessly as a kid, and she was like, if you fight them back, then why don't you fight them back? And she thought that, and she perhaps was right. If I would fight them back, then they would leave me alone. But I literally felt then, and to this day, felt I was above fighting on a schoolyard with who I thought were insignificant children who were irrelevant.
Norma Desmond, you're looking down on them as Norma Desmond.
I think I didn't know who Norma Desmond was when I was 6 years old, but like from 5 years old, 3, 4, 5 years old, I was like, I'm above all of this petty, childish,
an 80-year-old movie star
stuff. Yeah. She was actually just 50, but what
kind? So talk to me, like what kind?
I felt like I was above that. So I never fought. I always ran. I was a fast runner, and I got caught often. I got beaten often. But
what
I
grade
think
are we talking here?
The thing I'll say, what I love about like admitting that now, that's how I thought. Obviously, it's a childish way of thinking, but I was right.
Yeah. I
was right.
No, but there are. I think all the time I look back at childhood, and I think I was thinking like I'm older. Like I was like viewing things, being like, what are we doing? Like don't they know? Like I often feel like, and then maybe that's a response to when you are nervous or getting bullied or whatever. But like I remember feeling older than I was at the time, like viewing it like,
how are you? What ways were you?
I wasn't really bullied. I didn't have a bully, but you know, as a fat kid, you get called names and things like that from time to time, and or you know, but I was never beat. I was big, so I wasn't getting beat up. But fat jokes and things like fat things, you know. That kind of thing. But I remember always feeling a little older than people when I was young.
But you're talking like beat up.
Oh yeah, like groups of usually boys, like getting off the bus. I described it in the book, getting off the bus and having to just take off running because like they just want to
And did your brother? Did you ever like want your brother to step in, or like what? How did
my
he
brother
view this?
wasn't a fighter either, and my bullying. It's really like I have my memories of like what happened in our childhood, and it was really important for him. And when I wrote the book, I wrote about my experience, and that like because he has a very different take on what happened. So in terms of bullying in the relationship with the other kids. So no, it wasn't like it just no. It's like weird. My brother and I were weird. Like our relationship was weird. No, it wasn't like save me. It was just like it was all so stupid to me, and I was scared for sure. But I also thought it was ridiculous. But it was just what my life was. Like my first interactions with kids, like I was called a sissy and an F word, like in daycare. I think I was like
daycare.
Oh yeah, like my first interactions with other children, I was called a sissy and F word. Why do you act like a girl? Like very early on, I've often said the irony of my life is when I was a child and before I transitioned, I was called a girl, and then after I transitioned, people call me a man.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like that's the reality for like so many trans women. I've heard other trans women say this too, and it's so funny because like, and when you think about that with like kids calling you, like literally kids would be like, why are you a girl, or why do you act like a girl? You look like a girl, and like what does that even mean, right? And so like it's interesting that other people are sort of clocking my tea, you know, as a child, and then like in third grade, Miss Ridgway, my third grade teacher, told the story a zillion times, but literally called my mother on the phone and said, your son is going to end up in New Orleans wearing a dress if we don't get him into therapy right away. And I ended up in conversion therapy, not the conversion therapy that you did at NYU.
Yeah. Wait, okay.
Very different conversion therapy.
First, tell me, like,
there was no oral sex in my conversion therapy.
So, okay. So
thank God.
Okay. So you went to conversion? You were sent to conversion
like
therapy.
3 sessions. It was 3 sessions, and like
what is? Because I don't think
for me,
really, yeah.
There's different types of it. This was 1980. Well, it was third grade,
so they really mastered it.
I was 8 years old. This was 1980.
Yeah.
So after like 3 sessions, the very diminutive, like short white man who seemed very gay to me, suggested to my mother that they inject me with testosterone, and this is something that they were. This is something they were doing.
It was just talk therapy before. And
it was talk therapy, like, and that was
do you like what he said? Do you want to wear a dress? Would you like?
All I remember is the first session, if I'm being honest, and him asking me if I knew the difference between a boy and a girl, and I said there is no difference. Mm-hmm. This is third grade. I'm 8 years old. And the way I reasoned in my brain is that everyone was telling me I was a boy, but I knew I wasn't a boy. I knew I was a girl. And like, I was 8. This is 1980. I didn't know anything about trans, so I was just like, well, boys and girls must not be any different. If people are calling me a boy and I'm a girl, so there must not be any difference. So I was just like, and my mother had like had the conversation with me. Like I knew that like boys allegedly had penises, and I knew the penis vagina thing. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was like my girlhood or girlness wasn't about that. It was about like, I'm just a girl, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I was 8 and I didn't have like...
And that's just where your mind, when you said, oh, there must be no difference.
Yeah. That's the way I reasoned it. And I thought I had doctor-patient privilege. I think I remember this because he told my mother, and my mother like yelled at me, and it was...
Wait, what do you yell even? Like, how do you not know the difference?
It was, and part of me, I literally just finished the audiobook. So writing all of this out for the book and then like reading it back, it was like I had kind of told this story humorously, like on when I was doing a college speaking tour for many years. But it was like writing this book, I was like, this was all, I as a child, I didn't have the capacity to like process emotions. So like so much of the trauma was just unprocessed and just pushed down. Mm-hmm. And going back and writing this book, I was just like the pain that I was in, just not feeling seen, not feeling loved, and then feeling a tremendous amount of shame because, I was embarrassing my mother. Like, you're embarrassing me. People are talking about me. And I felt like a burden. Like, she was a single mother. She was working 4 jobs. It was like, we never had any money. And I was adding another thing to her plate that was like, so I just felt like this burden. And I thought like children were a punishment. And that I think I knew I didn't want, part of the reason I didn't want to have kids, I thought they were insufferable when I was one. And children ruin people's lives. I watched my mother just like, and I felt like it was my fault. So it was...
That's awful.
Yeah, but it was awful.
But so you go to 3 sessions, and does the therapist say with you in the room?
No. This is something
he reports back
exactly. He reports back to my mother, and my mother is like, she's literally something like, they want to inject you with testosterone. That's crazy. I'm not taking you back there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
To her, and it's funny because I think it's even when many years later, when I told her I was on estrogen, she freaked out about that. I think it's just like medical procedures and like injecting hormones, just all that stuff freaks her out, and surgery and all that stuff freaks her out. So I think
I do feel like for some people, like
Thank God, though. But like, can I tell you though, this was later on, like in 1999, I transitioned, medical transition in 1998. In 1999, 2000 or so, I was at a trans women support group at the LGBTQ Center here in New York, and there was a trans woman in that group who they had given her testosterone when she was like 10, 11 to try to make her more masculine. So when it's time for her to transition, she had been pumped with all this testosterone, and it really made her transition that much harder, that much more difficult. And this is what they would, and they did this with women too. There was, I did a one night only show, and I can't think of her name right now, Bailey. I can't think of her name. Gladys Bentley. Gladys Bentley was this amazing blues singer from the Harlem Renaissance in like the 1920s, and she wore like men's tuxedos, and she was a plus size woman, open lesbian at the time, openly dated women, married a woman, but she was very like masculine presenting, and after the sort of pansy craze of the Harlem Renaissance period ended, she was an insanely talented piano player and singer. So there's an Ebony magazine article about her where she talks about like how she let her sinful lifestyle go away from like 1950 or so, and they injected her with female hormones in like the 1950. Ooh. I got hormone treatment and I changed my life, and then she married a man, and so there was it was like to treat gayness or trans, like inject them with the right hormones, and that's supposed to make them more. It's insane. Going from being such an interesting performer to like that, like it's like. But it was the Harpo Marx show that there's a video on YouTube of her on the Harpo. I think it's the Harpo Marx show, and there are wonderful recordings of her blues music, and there's oh my God, it's just incredible. Her voice and the sound, it's incredible. But she does Them Their Eyes. She accompanies herself on piano and sings Them Their Eyes. So like, and she's in this dress, and she did what she had to do to survive. Yeah.
I think it's great. It's it's so disingenuous, the framing of kind of conservatives, where it's like, oh, it's the LGBTQ community who's like introducing the concept of like doing any kind of medical procedure for any kind of child. Well, it's like, no, this was done to make them fit this societal box.
I mean, I see it was so much more complicated than that, but like I mean, that was something that was done, but it was also something that was done to treat trans people. Magnus Hirschfeld. There's documented evidence that he was developing hormones in like 1914 or so, and so there were according to Susan Stryker, who literally wrote the book on trans history, and others, Hirschfeld was developing hormones that were used in a cross-sex manner to affirm the genders of trans people in like the 1920s and 30s. So if you ever saw that movie Danish Girl, with Eddie Redmayne. Yeah. Eddie Redmayne was not included in the movie. There's a novel that they based the movie on, but if you read Lily Elby's diary, it's much better. And she's not from Berlin, but she goes to Berlin for her first gender affirming surgery. Is an orchiectomy, and so Magnus Hirschfeld was so ahead of his time, and there was a space in Germany, in Berlin, in Weimar, Berlin, where you could get an ID document because of Magnus Hirschfeld. He lobbied the government to where trans people could get an ID document that it didn't say female, but it said trans, and they could have legal status as trans people in Berlin at the time. And obviously, we know that the Nazis came in, and the very first book burning was of trans research, gay and trans research from Magnus Hirschfeld. So it's so interesting how history kind of repeats itself.
Sure, interesting is one word.
In this new fashion, for me, it's interesting. I've had over the past like 3 years, I've had a lot of emotions around this. It was 2023 after Bud Light. The Bud Light thing with Dylan Mulvaney. I was like, and then right after that, Target had Pride merch, and like the conservatives were like threatening Target workers, and like, I mean, like,
could you feel
it was insane? I knew we had lost the culture then, that year, I think like nearly half the country had banned gender affirming care for young people. 3 years ago, I knew we were fucked as trans people, and it was just gonna get worse.
When it felt like culturally different, did you ever fall? I fell under an assumption with progress and progressivism that was like, oh, it's moving in this particular direction. Like when you felt like there was a celebration of transness and elevation and talking about it, did you go, wow, maybe I'm on solid ground, or could you always, or did you know enough about history that you're like, the walls are not firm, that it can change?
The walls are not firm. That sounded like, I'm like, I haven't had that much sex. Excuse me. But like, my walls are very firm.
Is that like a wolf?
No, I was just, I'm not great with metaphors.
Okay.
I just meant
my
like,
walls are very firm.
I believe that it just, it felt like, there's like a there, whether it's the Target or whatnot, it feels like there's a celebration. There's obviously the corporate side that you can't trust. Did you always go, I don't care how many covers I'm on, something's gonna turn. It's not gonna be this good.
Well, I know that. I mean, the blessing of when I got more famous or whatever because of Orange Is the New Black in 2013 and 2014, I was 40 years old. Like I was 41 when Orange came out. So I had lived a life and had ups and downs, and I knew a lot about history. And so I was grateful for like the career moment I was having. I didn't know how long it would last because show business is very fleeting. So I wanted to use the time I had in the with the public platform to try to change the conversation with and about trans people. And we did make progress. We made some progress in that way, but there was I have a wonderful documentary I executive produced on Netflix called Disclosure, directed by Sam Fader. And in that documentary, Sam asserts, and we assert, that often when there's a lot of increased visibility of a marginalized group, there's inevitably a backlash. Yeah. And Sam so presciently, when he saw me in the cover of Time magazine in 2014, he was excited, but he was also like, okay, let's get. And so he started thinking about Disclosure, and Disclosure looks at the history of trans representation on screen.
Yeah, I watched it a while ago.
It came out in 2020, so it came out 6 years ago. Yeah. Still on Netflix.
It's great. It's
10-year life. Yeah. I'm very proud.
But it feels very tenuous to be like, you can't say, hey, let it be acceptable. But if the magazine offer comes in, maybe not, because it's gonna turn. Like, what's the takeaway if visibility only leads to demonization?
Well, what we say in Disclosure and what I believe is that visibility alone isn't enough. It has to be accompanied by a movement, and a grassroots movement that is actually dedicated to civil rights for the marginalized group. And what happened, and we were on the road. We were actually on the road to that. Many states passed. It began to include. What was happening on the state level is that many states began to include. I remember in the early 2000s, and there's a photo of me at City Hall when several trans people testified before the New York City what is it called? Commission or whatever. Human Rights Commission. That they're to add transgender to the Human Rights Charter in terms of being a protected class. And we did that here in New York City in like 2001, 2002, around then. And so it happened in Albany, and then it was happening in a state and different cities, and then on different states we're adding trans people into human rights protection, and that's how we were getting legal protections. And yeah, that's basically, and then obviously the fight for marriage equality, but we weren't included in INDA, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act that was passed in New York in around 2002 or so. They didn't include trans people, and a similar law was proposed when Barney Frank was in Congress around 2007 that excluded trans people. So they didn't think they'd get it passed with trans people. And then after that, they introduced the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act into Congress. And it literally took, I think, 18 years. I remember going to Albany. We had Equality and Justice Day every year. Different organizations would go to Albany and lobby, the state legislators in Albany to pass the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. I think it took like 18 or 19 years. And ironically, it was Cuomo who signed it into law.
Cuomo.
So it's not the first time that the larger LGBTQ plus community said that we need to leave trans people out. There's literally right after Stonewall, where Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were there that night. Many trans people were. And I always like to remind people that the Stonewall Rebellion that happened in 1969, Stonewall was like a bar for sex workers, drag queens, trans folks. It was not like this preppy like gay bar, you know. It was like sex workers, and it was like, you know, allegedly owned by the mob. And so
Cuomo,
it was,
there you go. There's the connection.
allegedly. So it was like people who had nothing to lose, who were tired of police harassment, who fought back against the police that night. And then literally there's a video from 1974 that was unearthed of Sylvia Rivera trying to speak at a Pride event, and they would not let her on stage. They were like, you can't speak. That by the early 1970s, the women's movement intersecting with the gay rights movement thought that trans women and drag queens were a bad look, that they we just want people to think we're normal, and so trans people and drag queens can't be included in that. Sylvia fought her way on stage, and she said, y'all better calm down. They're booing her when she finally grabs the microphone. It's so powerful. I just got chills thinking about it. She's like, you better calm down. She said, I've gotten beaten for gay rights. I've gone to jail. I've been raped for gay rights. And she started Street Transvestite Action Revolutionary, which my brain is like, there's too much information up here. Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which is Star House. And that's what the acronym stands for. Thank you. Star House. She started in like 1970 with Marsha P. Johnson, and what they were doing was basically like they would turn tricks and they would rent a hotel room and they would get the girls off the street and feed them. Like and she says in this speech, they don't when the girls go to jail, they don't call the gay community, they call us as Star House because they know we'll do something for them. And it was. So so many things aren't new, you know, in terms of like, there's all the debates that some LGBTQ plus folks are having, like that trans people shouldn't be included. There's literally like a whole
it's interesting because I feel like when there's this kind of extreme pushback that we've seen in the last few years, with that comes like, you know, the usual suspects are behind that initial pushback, but then they're picking up a lot of people that you're like, wait, what? Now this is your big thing, Bill Maher? Do you know what I mean? Like, like bizarro things that you're like,
Bill Maher has he's always had some troubling politics. Some very like the Islamophobia.
I think for sure. But like in a general, it's not even just Bill Maher. But I know you've turned down like some big invites from like Democratic establishment type folks that have I said that publicly? I guess I've turned down some very big invites. Yeah, that are like, because it's this kind of thing where then
the opportunities like I've had. I haven't told people publicly some of this stuff I've turned down. But go on.
But, you can tell us.
But you
please.
can. The thing is like is that it's this bizarre thing where I would feel like they want to use you when they want to use you, and then the moment there's like they're seeing heat from Republicans, they're like, that's not our thing, and they distance it, and it's so clear, and it's so like anyways, so I feel like
it's disgusting.
Yeah,
I remember that there was one Democratic debate way back, and every candidate went up and they were like, Kamala Harris, she, her, and it's like in this one moment, it was just very transparent for everyone on that stage. And so, how do you navigate when you're being used? When it's a candidate who or a candidate who might be progressive about trans rights, but other things no. Like, what have you turned down? Just tell me. Just tell me. I'm beating around the bush.
What I do,
I read it somewhere.
Maybe I've never spoken publicly about the things I've turned down. Let me think about it. But while I think about that, I will say that there was a period that was like that where we were like. we were acknowledging that trans people exist, and so people were stating their pronouns, and it was something that like there was an openness. It was a like, let's create safe space. I love the way you're sitting now. I'm so excited. There was this space where people were like open to like, there's other cultures that exist. There's Black people have been oppressed in this country, and like we need to make amends for that. There was like this SJW kind of vibe going on, and then there was a backlash to that, and some of it got a little cringy for sure. But I am right now, I'm like advocating for like us like reclaiming woke, because there is a sleepiness that is when all of this fascist activity is happening all around us, when the Voting Rights Act was like finally fully gutted recently. I mean, just like the list of things that are happening around voting rights, trans rights, women's rights, but then even beyond that, but like, but the corruption, the blatant corruption of this administration, the gutting of like the consumer protect, everything Doge did, right? That is all spelled out in Project 2025. It's not. None of this should have been surprising. What I find interesting, I was on a rant about Caitlyn Jenner. And I try not to talk about her publicly, but now in this moment I don't really give a fuck. I was on a rant with I was getting in glam earlier today about Caitlyn Jenner. I was just like, because she was went on the Tommy Lahren podcast, and her podcast, her passport was changed. Bless her heart. Her passport was changed. The gender marker was changed to male, and she, filled out a form and said it was incorrect, and they sent it in, and it came back male again. And she was just like, she said, "I love Trump, and I don't think it's him. I think it's the people working for him." And I'm like, girl.
You're in an
girl,
abusive
and then she literally says, and this affects a lot of other people, and this is wrong. And I was like,
how little
I'm like, Caitlyn. And
do you have her number in your phone?
I used to. I don't know if it's the same number.
Right. I used to. Met her. I mean, like, what did she think?
Hold on. Let me cook. Let me rant, because I never do this publicly. And but at this point, when we're this high in fascism, you cannot equivocate with this shit. There's no both sizing fascism. And how does she not know this? What astonishes me is how many right-wing conservative people did not read Project 2025. They had no idea what was in it. They're surprised. They voted for this motherfucker, and they had everything. They were like, I didn't think this would happen. All of it's in Project 2025. When Doge was cutting every Social Security, every Department of Education, all of it's in Project 2025. And Caitlyn Jenner, when they said on page 4 of Project 2025, we want to exclude all these words from every document, piece of legislation that exists in this country. Transgender was one of those words. Transgender, gender,
that's
identity.
That's the next president, by the way. No women.
Gender identity, DEI, all of it's in the document of you're 70-something years old. The conservatives have wanted to erase us. What are you smoking? How do you not fucking know that your party is all over the country? Are you just playing golf and like flying a fucking plane in Malibu or something, where you don't know that Republican state legislatures for the past 7 years have been taking away our rights on a state level? That is Republicans. It's not Democrats. How does she not know that? It's insane. Okay, I never do that publicly.
No.
Do you think though?
No.
But what the fuck? Sorry.
Do you think she goes, oh, it's not going to affect, like, is she like trans for me but not for thee?
I have no idea.
Because
I have no idea. Because I have not spoken to her in years.
Because it's hard for me to believe that she'd be so stupid. So my question is, like, does she go like, oh, I don't care if anyone else gets to be trans as long as I have a connection to the president, so I don't have to change my passport. And that's why she's like, I don't think it's Trump, because she just wants a favor from him. I don't think she's that naive. That's my thing.
It's similar to, there's people I in life that I know have come into the country that now would be a way that you could get deported for now, but in their minds they're like, no, that's not me. I did it the right way. But you're like, but you didn't really. Like, I know people that you're like this is 30-40 years ago, but
They believe the propaganda. I think they believe the propaganda.
It is the thing of being like, and now it's like, let's shut the door behind me. Like, anyone else that's doing that now?
Do you think she cares about other trans people and she's just so deluded, or do you think she's so cynical that she goes, I don't give a fuck as long as I continue to be with the powers that are at the top?
I cannot speculate about what her thought process is, and I honestly have no idea. But what I do know is that when she came out in 2015, I know that according to her, literally January of 2015, a friend of mine reached out to me, and there have been rumors that Caitlyn was going to transition, like all over these magazines. And she's like, have you seen the rumors about, I won't dead name her. And I said, yes, they're actually true. This is January of 2015. She's never met a trans person before. Can you talk to her? And I said, absolutely. This is a Thursday. I was like, give her my number. Caitlyn calls me the next day. We speak for like a few hours. She had already had some feminizing procedures. She talked about her kids mostly and how she just was like a father. I think still uses father, who loves her kids, and said who was more supportive than others. And and I supported her, and a lot of us in the trans community supported her when she came out, and she had a show on E! With a lot of trans folks. And then then she came out as conservative. Well, people didn't know she was conservative, and then she started getting backlash from the trans community, and then she like is advocating against trans people participating in sports.
Were you fucking pissed? You helped her.
I never ever want to be like pitted against another trans person publicly, and I never want that, and I always want to be loving and supportive. And then I used to feel, and that I used to feel like you can have disagreements with people politically and still be friends with them. I was never friends with her. We spoke, and then as she started saying more, that first year out, it got dicey really quickly. She started saying some problematic things, and I just remember wanting to I remember the day she got Glamour Woman of the Year. She texted me and she was like, "Are you in New York?" And I wasn't. I was traveling at the time, and that's when I think in the article, or I don't know if her in a speech or something, she's like, the hardest thing about being a woman is trying to figure out what to wear. And like the backlash was so, like, people were incensed, right? Because people who were just transphobic were incensed. It was so tone deaf. And what I say about that is I've always believed, what I learned many years ago is that I don't think, and I said this to Dylan Mulvaney, but Dylan's doing better, and she's found community. But I think early transitioning trans people should not be in front of a camera for at least 5 to 7 years.
You've said that. You've said that before. But I know.
And the reason for that is we like for Caitlyn to like all of a sudden be held up as like to be on it was a rollout of her transness and her transition. She has not lived a life as a trans person yet. She has lived a life of a person who is denying their transness, who is assumed as straight cisgender male with all the privileges that come with that until she was 65 years old. She does not have the experiences of a trans woman yet. Like and then most of us, don't have that money and privilege and all that, but like she couldn't speak to a trans experience. And so there was no and
then
so,
to just make a joke. I mean, that probably was a little bit of a joke, but it's the equivalent. Like the hardest part about being a woman is figuring out to bake cookies when I get home and what to put in them. And it's like that joke is really fast before getting the full.
But there was also like politically. For me, I was actually the first trans woman to be a Glamour Woman of the Year. The year before Caitlyn was, it wasn't controversial, but I approached it. I'm a feminist. I'm an intersectional feminist. I right about this my book coming out June 9th, available for pre-order right now.
Yeah.
I discovered bell hooks when I was a freshman in college, and so and her work changed my life. She's an intersectional. For those of you who don't know, bell hooks is essential. Intersectional feminist, even though she didn't use the term intersectionality, she was intersectional from jump. And so I developed a feminist politic, and I started decolonizing my mind in college and understanding how I'd internalized white supremacy and anti-blackness, even as a black person from Mobile, Alabama, and how it internalized sex. So I had already been on a journey that was a political journey that was certainly not a conservative one. Mm-hmm. It was one that was about unlearning and raising my consciousness and understanding how what Bell Hooks calls imperialist white supremacist capitalist patriarchy works. I add to that imperialist white supremacist capitalist cis-normative heteronormative patriarchy works. So in understanding that these are interlocking systems that are operating at all times. And so in this moment when we should be lifting up workers and all oppressed people, like all of these, just thinking about this moment with like trans people and the Supreme Court and voting rights, and it's all the ambidextrous nature of fascist conservatives. And they've always been a fascist party, because really, as I thought about this Supreme Court case and like been watching lots of podcasts and listening to lots of podcasts about it, and really smart people talk about it, Ellie Stahl, Joanne Reed made the point that we didn't really have democracy in the United States until 1965. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We were an apartheid state before then. And then before the 100 years of Jim Crow, we had a slave state. We had a class of people who did not have the same rights as the other class of people. We were an apartheid state for like most of the time that we've been a nation. And John Roberts I didn't know, this thing I learned this weekend. I'm from Mobile, Alabama, and I learned this weekend that in 1980, 82 or so, the Supreme Court made a decision. I don't know if it was the United States Supreme Court, it was a state, like an appellate court, made a decision, and I have to do more reading about it, but there was a Mobile case, and they basically decided, the Supreme Court decided that if the racial discrimination was not intended, then it wasn't a violation of the Voting Rights
Act. And it's really hard to prove intention.
But it's really about the impact in the outcome. And Ronald Reagan, of all people, actually extended the life of the Voting Rights Act for like 16 years as like a remedy to that Supreme Court decision. And John Roberts was incensed. He wasn't a Supreme Court justice then. He was like a lawyer who was really pushing to overturn the Voting Rights Act, because he just always felt it was unconstitutional. Rehnquist, who was his mentor, felt the same way, but Rehnquist is probably like a segregationist. So like thinking about, and so Roberts, like the patience, even just thinking about the Federalist Society was founded in like 1980, early 80s as well, as a response to the Warren Court and to Roe v. Wade and contraception, right? Like that as a response to this very sort of liberal court in Brown versus Board of Education, all these decisions that like created actual democracy in this country, made like black women equal, and at least on paper, right?
Yeah.
Thinking like John Roberts, I was just thinking a lot about like this guy since 1980, 82, but since before then, most of the Conservative Party since 1965, 61 years, they have wanted to overturn the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, which is actually what democratized this country. So thinking about that, it's like, have conservatives always really been fascist in America? Because obviously we know about the realignment or whatever after LBJ, but like Democratic, Republican conservatives wanted segregation, wanted a subclass of people. There's a very specific
version of society that a very crafty group of white people want, and they've done a good job of marketing it. Like, I think
they're marketing. They're like to all these people who they don't even remember that version of life anymore because it's so long ago.
Yeah.
But they're marketing it to people who've just known shit their entire life,
and
they're saying the only way this will get better for you in your shitty lives is if we do this. And that's the only thing that they can imagine is being like, well, nothing's ever been good for me, and like that's it. You know what I mean? Like
sometimes I think even as you talk, I go like, if I were to go to someone and say the word decolonize, I just imagine a lot of people immediately going like, it's an intellectuality of there's a lot of vocabulary
I don't know if there's another way to say it.
But that's what I wonder sometimes because it's so easy to go. Do you want a man playing women's sports? That's easy to say. That's easy to digest. And you just repeat it.
But also, men and women's sports, but they also say men and girl sports. So what happens with that? So the image that emerges is a grown
really
man like
interesting.
Gianmarco or Russell, full grown man, and then a little girl, and then a little girl like you and a little girl, a man and girl sports. That is deeply dehumanizing, and the ways in which what is honestly like the precision and the discipline that conservatives have had around the anti-trans messaging, but all of their discipline they have and the ambidextrous nature is something to be studied. And they've done such an incredible job. I mean, trans people are less than 1% of the population, so it's easier to scapegoat and dehumanize a group of people that a lot of people may not know personally, but they have so successfully dehumanized us with images like that. When we talk about gender affirming care for young people, and they talk about like mutilating children, castrating children, because people still... one of my big things when I got a public platform was like taking the conversation with and about trans people away from surgery, away from transition, because that objectifies and dehumanizes people. Because the first thing people think about often with trans folks is surgery. Still, for like since 1952, since Christine Jorgensen, and that becomes a problem. When you have conservative, it makes it really easy for conservatives to, because you think about a surgery, not a human being. You don't think about the lived experience of a person who is who they say they are.
But that's where it feels like the stumbling point is, like, you know, as I think of myself as a trans ally, where it's like the conservatives will go, so you think men should play women's sports. Define a woman. They ask like a quick, short question, and so many people publicly stumble in their ability to enter a bad faith question, and it feels very frustrating because
this is
my answer to the sports, ultimately, the part of me, I go, I don't fucking care. I mean, truly, because I don't care about this thing, and it's a bad faith question, but that it is effective. You look like a fool. You can look. People have looked like a fool struggling to answer. I think one of the Supreme Court justices, they said they couldn't answer what is a woman. You know, that's Matt Walsh's whole.
It was Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah, it was Ketanji. But Ketanji actually she's brilliant. Her dissents and her decisions that she writes.
If you read them, sure.
I mean,
I know what I'm saying. I'm saying most people don't. Yeah, and it's like that always feels, that felt like the struggle of like where I watched progressives fall on their face, you know, publicly in a podcast because they couldn't figure out a slogan that was equally as catchy and effective and repeatable.
What hasn't happened, and what I've been actually struggling with over the past 3 years, is to figure out how, understanding that they went to sports first, right? They focus group this.
Bathroom failed.
Bathroom failed. They went to sports, but now they've got the bathroom bans. So it was never about the evidence, the empirical data we have now. So that's helpful. So, but I was trying to figure out, like, how do I don't want to have a discussion about my humanity and my right to exist on the oppressor's terms, because you're never going to win. Yes. And so having the conversation about like trans people in sports is irrelevant, because there's like 0.00001% of trans people who actually play sports and like who actually win if they play sports, right? Trans people have been able to compete at the Olympics for 20 something years. I think it's 2001, 2002, they changed the Olympic standards. So trans people have been able to compete in the Olympics for like over 20 years. And in that over 20 years that we've had the capacity to compete at the Olympics, how many trans women have made it to the Olympics? One. And she did, like, she qualified, but then like her first lift, she was a weightlifter from Australia, she didn't even make it past then. So in 20 years at the Olympics, trans women have been able to compete. And before that, they've reintroduced gender testing at the Olympics. They outlawed it in the late 90s because they said it actually had negative effects for assigned female at birth people. There was this whole myth, like when they brought gender testing in, I think in the 50s or something, 1950s, that these really athletic women must really be men. And so we have to like test them. So it becomes a way to police womanhood. And then anything around like sports and femininity, it always disproportionately affects women of color.
Of course.
Always. And they've said that, that Black women should compete against white women. So it becomes again, it's intersectional, right? So it's a non-issue.
Of course.
It's a non-issue.
I think the angle is...
The question really should be, why are you making this? Why are you making trans women or trans people in sports an issue when we're less than 1% of the population? You are using it to dehumanize trans people, and you're asking the question, what is a woman, and reducing that to like body parts, because you're dehumanizing women and trying to exclude trans people as a way to dehumanize and take away our rights and erase us from public life, as Michael Knowles said at CPAC several years ago.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, I want to play with rough weapons, and I want to be like, why? I think the angle of like, why are you so obsessed with children's genitalia? Like, I just think it's clearly so resonant if we're looking at like a line. It's the same way that Tim Walz for a second said the Republicans are weird, and that seemed to work, and
the focus group
disappeared.
The Biden people and the Democratic consultants said you need to lose that, and that was really effective.
But it's like to me, it's really, like that's clearly this. You want to get people like worked up. It's you ultimately have to talk in terms of like of sex, and
we need to be more soundbitey. We need sound bites.
Who is very against any Epstein stuff coming out, and you're obsessed with kids' genitalia.
Yeah.
There's a thing being like, what's going on, gang? Like,
I think
going on? You're thinking about
the empirical data
a lot.
What I've been saying publicly post Epstein files, again, more empirical data, is that conservatives have been saying that they want to protect women and children from trans people, right? That's what they've been saying. We want to protect women in sports, and we want to protect the children from trans people, right? And if they really wanted to protect women and children, they would fucking like indict and convict or even investigate all the people who are in the Epstein files. We have documentation of known pedophiles who have been named in cases. There are survivors who have been begging the Justice Department to investigate, to do something. And we have all this data, and they're not doing anything because they don't give a fuck about women and children. No. If they gave a fuck about women, they would let women control their bodies and decide when they want to have a child. They don't give a fuck. It's all about dehumanizing and scapegoating certain groups of people. So partly as a distraction, but also partly because Project 2025 is also a Christian nationalist document that is a part of another whole agenda that's around patriarchy, the family, and putting, God, what is that? God, the patriarch, or the man, and then women underneath them. And, so it's also about like reinstating sort of patriarchy. Fascism, someone recently said that the fascist needs the patriarch, right? Because when you look at Jason Stanley's How Fascism Works, all of this is there too. You need that like charismatic leader, that dear leader, that Hitler, that Trump, as the figure, and he's a patriarch. Like he's a fascism is like patriarchal by nature. But just based on history and the characteristics of fascism. So we need better messaging, and we need to all get on the same page, and like that has been something that like it's a bigger coalition, but like we can't abandon, like with trans people, with abortion rights, like equivocating on civil rights is not something we should ever do. Just to all the years, I don't for you're in your 30s, I'm 50, I'm going to be 54, so I've watched my whole life like the Democratic Party concede to conservatives on abortion, for example, or on gay marriage. I mean, the Clinton, Bill Clinton, what was it? Don't ask, don't tell was the like compromise, right? Which was a disaster. And then JOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, was another like capitulation to conservatives. Well, now we understand that the whole third way Clinton thing is a capitulation to capital and conservatism. Now that's clear in hindsight. But you cannot. The lessons we should learn from conservatives is that they are relentless and they don't back down. That when abortion was made the law of the land in 1973 with Roe v. Wade, they immediately got a plan. And when their justices failed, when they would get a justice in there who was going to revoke abortion rights, they said, okay, remember like there was a politician, we don't want litmus test. They were like, eventually, we want a fucking litmus test. The Federalist Society was like, okay, they vetted them, they trained them, they made sure they knew what to do when they got into that court. And what they need to do is deregulate, protect capital, and take away, repeal, like, and
they'll use whatever argument it is to get it through. That's the other thing. It's
nonsensical
tactic,
as it is.
Any, like you being like, I think it should have been left up to the states, and it's like that's not true. The moment you have the power to oversee everyone follow this, you will take away that right. It's not true. It's all in bad faith, and it never should be taken in good faith. You know what the intention is. You don't need the text messages to leak to know what the intention is.
But that is if you are awake. That is if you have some kind of critique of media, a critique of power. Like we have to be able to, especially now with AI, we have to be able to look at media critically. We're not taught that. They're demolishing. Another tool of fascism is to delegitimize like the institutions of higher learning.
CBS.
Like so that like colleges are not trusted anymore, right? That education isn't trusted anymore. So you have, and the Republicans openly said in the 80s during Reagan's era, we don't want an educated populace. An educated populace, the more people with college degrees, they don't vote Republican. They don't vote for conservatives. The more educated you become, the least likely you are to actually be conservative, because a great liberal arts education, which has been so devalued, they're so relentless, actually teaches you any number of things about history. I just think about what I'm so excited about at almost 54 years old is I'm still learning new things. I didn't know about the Alabama thing. I'm deeply invested in like civil rights and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and Brown versus Board of Education and these moments in like Supreme Court history during the Warren Court with when Thurgood Marshall was on the court and the brilliant knowledge that I found out several years ago that a person who the name Polly Murray, who questioned their gender during their lifetime, was a lesbian. Like Polly Murray, Thurgood Marshall said that Polly Murray wrote the Bible for Brown versus Board of Education, and Polly Murray's thesis for, at the Howard, I think it was at Howard University, laid out all of the framework for what Thurgood Marshall argued in Brown versus Board of Education. Polly Murray coined the term Jane Crow to like sort of like in an intersectional way. Black feminism has always been intersectional. Always been intersectional since Sojourner Truth, because you can't, to understand my life as a Black trans woman, I can't just look through a lens of race. I can't just look through a lens of gender. Or class. I have to, all of them are affecting me all at once at the same time. So, but Polly Murray was this queer, probably trans person that there was a book came out several years ago of Polly Murray's letters, and she was writing to like a Swedish doctor to get testosterone in the 1950s. So Polly was on and often was very masculine presenting, or at least early in her life. They never used he him pronouns, and eventually came. Amazing life of Polly Murray, but for me to know that, like a Black trans, maybe trans on the spectrum kind of person, like authored the paper that would make Brown versus Board of Education a reality is really exciting. So I love learning. I love it. And encouraging that, I think, in this country would be an amazing thing. And to just question, I feel like I shouldn't mention this again because people forget and but it's relevant to the story. I dated a conservative cop for several years, and
several years.
I did, yeah. You didn't know this. Okay.
No,
yeah,
I saw it in the research.
I've made this joke too many times. I was being like, oh my God, I didn't know you two used to.
No, yeah. Gianmarco's bit is that I'm conservative, but I'm not.
That's pretty clear, I think, for this podcast.
Okay.
This whole episode, you're like, I am so fucking angry right now.
No, but so I didn't know a few years. That's crazy.
Yeah. I was mad. I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was a cop. He told me he was in commercial real estate when we met.
Oh,
and we just met and had this chemistry and connection. I fell in love with him. I was not looking for a boyfriend. We fell mad in love. I go into all the details in my book, available for pre-order right now. But what was really interesting to me is when we would have. I remember the Colorado, was it Colorado? When they were saying that Argentinian gangs are taking over apartment buildings, right? I heard that story from the first time from my ex. I called him Giuseppe in the book. That's a pseudonym.
You had to go Italian, huh?
Well, he is Italian.
Okay.
So he's Italian.
Giuseppe
That's
Macaroni.
Giuseppe. Well, actually, I named after Giuseppe Verdi, the opera composer. But. That's why I thought it would be funny. Yeah. Anyway, Giuseppe. So he tells me about this story of these. I was like, this is awful. Literally the next day, I see a news report that completely debunks it. And it was on Breaking Points with Sagar. So Sagar is. I think you know Breaking Points probably. I would imagine you would.
Yeah.
Saga, it's very conservative dude. So I was like, oh, this is a video I can send to him, and he said he sees it, and there's like literally the mayor of the town is saying that this isn't true. The police, the sheriff of the town is saying it isn't true. Tenants from the apartment building are saying it's not true. That the landlord is actually a slumlord and hired a PR person to say that Argentinian gangs are taking over. So all these people from the town and their protest, are saying this, and there's data that this is a lie, and I send it to him, and he's like, I still believe it, and I was just like,
before AI,
and I was just like, and then he said some really dehumanizing shit about Latino gangs versus other gangs, because he had just, and I was just like, he said they're really horrible, and I was just like, I'm not a cop. And that's where we had to kind of I know what I've seen in the media, and I understand that there's lots of propaganda in the media, but my understanding of gang activity is because an Argentinian gang had decapitated, or dismembered, I should say, one of his informants or something, recently. And so he told me that story, and I was just like, that's horrible. I'm so sorry that happened to your informant. And I am. But my understanding is that gangs, maybe I watched too many movies, but Italian gangs, that's gangster activity. They have been known to dismember people. They've been known to murder people in brutal ways. Italian gangs, black gangs, Russian gangs, or is there something special about Argentinian or Latino gangs?
Yeah.
Oh, they're worse. And I was just like, and it just, the dehumanization, but it's when you are a hammer, everything is a nail, and he's a cop, so it's that lens. Even when we would just be out for going to have dinner or something, I would see him scoping out, and it's very kind of it's kind of like this survival fight or freeze thing where he's constantly seeing who's a potential perpetrator. There's this It's ultimately a dehumanizing way to see the world. It's the institution, I think, is corrupt and racist still to this day. And what I realized, is that I just tried to work with. Maybe it was a little denial. Maybe it was a little until when you read the book. When you read the book, hopefully you'll read the book or listen to the audiobook. Audible. Yeah, that is a real thing. It was just clear to me how, if he's an agent of the state, he's chosen to do this job. He has a certain lens that he's looking through, but then also he was not. Usually, I've dated really smart guys in the past. He was not the smartest guy I've ever dated.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the critical.
Yeah.
But when we met though, I loved because because my life is complicated, and I use words like decolonize and like everyday language. So it was great for me. I say things like imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist, cisnorm, heteronorm, patriarchy, like in everyday conversation. So it was great for me to have this like person who like it was light and breezy with him in the beginning, and he has a beautiful soul. He really does, and I did feel like there was a spiritual connection, and he was the first person where I felt a spiritual, physical, and emotional connection all at once, and that was beautiful. Like his politics weren't, and there was like an agree to disagree thing, but like for me, I can't agree to disagree to dehumanize people. At the end of the day, there was a moment when he had saved a child's life, and he was getting an accommodation from like the city or something, and like I was proud of him for saving a child's life. Like that's a beautiful thing. But then I was just imagining myself at like this police gathering, like, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think I can ever go to fully, like, I want to be supportive of my partner in their job, but like I can't fuck with that. Like it's just
saved a child's life from like a drag queen reading.
Say that what?
I said saved a child from like a drag queen reading. Giuseppe's here. Don't worry about it.
They're so worried about that too.
We got a car accident.
We gotta go to our next segment. Let's go on to This Has Gotta Stop.
I said this has gotta stop. I was just gonna have fun.
This has gotta stop. This is something. Oh, by the way, join the Patreon. Patreon.com/downside. We are back. My voice is good. I wanted to
ask you about your voice. But,
I appreciate it.
We'll talk next time.
And I have a Patreon. You hear a lot, and you guys special episode coming out with Douglas. So join the Patreon. Patreon.com/downside. We'll do a quick. Do you have a Patreon submitted? This has gotta stop.
Will T says, this has got to stop. The idea that you have to love your job, and if you don't, you are by default unfulfilled and somehow wasting your professional and personal potential. If you do have a job you love, then go with God. But truly, it is enough if it is just the thing you do to get money to live. The blurring of the professional and personal and being defined by your job is yet another toxic symptom of late-stage capitalism, and I hate it.
Totally.
That was a good. This has got to stop.
Totally. I as someone on the other side of that spectrum, where I'm like job and life have no difference. I sleep and but as I've made more friends as an adult, I do talk to people where I'm like, how's work? And they go, what are you talking about? You know, we went to Australia, my girlfriend and I, and we went around the room to introduce ourselves.
I feel like I know her all the time. I've watched your specials and you talk about her.
You should meet her. She's great. But we went around the room. We were like going to climb a bridge, some activity, and everyone introduced themselves.
Because people climb bridges, you know.
And in Australia, though, we were so used to going, hi, my name's Gianmarco.
People don't do that.
They don't do it in other countries.
They've considered it gauche in other countries. Like it's like a weird money. Talking about money or your job or like they're like what? You know what I mean? Like what do you?
Yeah.
But I've certainly been taught. I've internalized, I should say. I think we teach and then I've internalized, right? There's what is taught and then like what is my reaction to that? I've internalized like my work has always been my life. Like I think when you're a performer, like musical theater, and you've been to a musical theater conservatory even, it's your life. And when you're an artist, it is your life. And that.
But if it's not, if your job's fucking making it, that's great.
Yeah.
And it also is like, on the other side, I can obviously become like over reliant on it as like a defining point. It's interesting because my family and I, it's not as close, but I remember like when I'm at a family gathering and it's like, oh, me as a comedian means nothing here. It's good for my soul, but there's a moment where I'm like, oh, I lost what I thought gave me like my self-worth and I have to confront it. So you're way healthier. Yeah. Believe me.
So, but I think the lesson, if I may, the lesson is that our self-worth should never come from something outside of ourselves. That we are born worthy. That worthiness, to quote Brene Brown, worthiness is a birthright. So, and there are no prerequisites to worthiness. And for a lot of my life, I've had a lot of prerequisites to worthiness. And
I don't think it matters that I'm winning a Webby Award tonight for best comedy special that the people voted on.
You won a Webby, congratulations.
But it doesn't matter.
I have 2 Webbies.
Great.
I have 2 Webbies.
Congrats.
Stephen, this gotta stop.
Not that it's a competition in a capitalist society.
Okay, I went this weekend to Cajun and Creole Music Festival in Red Hook.
I saw that.
And it was so
Cajun
fun.
and Creole.
It
Cool.
was so fun, and it was such an experience of, obviously I love New Orleans, Louisiana, but like the people that came, it was like, I felt like everyone is such a community. Like it really was like just so much joy, and people were really into it, and everyone was dancing. They knew all knew how to two-step, and it was great. I will say the only thing, this has got to stop.
I forgot. I was like, this gotta stop.
This has got to stop is sometimes I see this thing when there's dancing involved, where a woman will try to get her boyfriend or husband to dance, and he can't just do it. He has to do it as a bit, or be like, oh, like, you know, like, and I'm like, but you can tell like he's kind of doing it, and I'm like, I saw it so many times on Saturday, and I'm like, guys, just dance. You don't have to turn.
To quote Lady Gaga,
just dance. You don't have to turn it into a bit. You don't have to be like, oh, wouldn't I be a real doofus if I just fucking dance. It doesn't look better that it's a bit. It doesn't look cooler. It
or less feminine. Do you think that you think that this is a patriarchal, like misogynist?
They're worried about
like a vestige of like patriarchy.
See, you're gonna shout that over the music. This is a vestige of the patriarchal community.
I need to work on like not on different language. But this is again some people who haven't divested.
Yes.
One of the things I love about you is that I feel like, at least I'm sure you have issues. Everybody does.
Of course.
And the wokest straight men that I've dated and known have a lot of issues, even though they're in their works in progress. But I love that it feels like both of you have like, or at least in process of like, not if not fully divesting of patriarchy and the toxic aspects of masculinity, or at least like critically interrogating them and questioning them.
Things pop up for sure.
But
we mess up now and then.
And it's not, for me, it's not about messing up. I hate. Okay, that would be my. This has got to stop. When we stop saying messing up, when we're like, you know, liberal or leftist people, I mess up sometimes. Because like messing up is like, we are human beings all in process learning, right? We've all internalized. Just because I'm black and trans didn't mean I came out of the womb woke.
Yeah.
I internalized the same imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist, cis-normative, heteronormative, patriarchal bullshit everybody else did. I had to unlearn it too. So it's like, it's a process. So it's not about messing up. It's about, hopefully, quick story, and then we can end this. And shout out to my my dear friend Ari Gold, the late Ari Gold. I love you, Ari. He was a singer, and then he, you know, party promoter, and he was hosting a talent show at a queer bar, rock bar in the West Village. I was a judge on the panel for the talent show, and at one point the audience was really loud, and the host couldn't get them to calm down, and I said, "You are some loud F words," and thinking nothing of it, I was working in Lucky Chains at the time, so it was a very politically incorrect environment. And after the show, 2 black gay guys come up to me and like read me the riot act for using the F word. They like read me for filth, and I was like, no. And this is Laverne. I was like, no, we're re-signifying that. We're reclaiming that word. And they were just like, people attack us for that, and that's fucked up that you would say that. And like, and they're in a queer bar, and they didn't feel safe, and they were really upset. And I turned to Ari, my gay friend, I was like, we're reclaiming that term. We're I said re-signifying because I'm Judith Butler. We're re-signifying that. We're reclaiming that, right? Absolutely, Ari. So I'm like, yeah. And then I called my brother. And I told my brother's story, expecting him to like, as Ari, affirm that like, we're reclaiming it. Like, yeah. And my brother's like, that's not your term to reclaim. And he's like, and I'm like, that's not your term to reclaim. And I was like, that's not your term to reclaim. And then I just started crying. And I started crying. And I think I started crying because that defensiveness went up. I didn't want I didn't intend any harm, and I'm a trans woman, right? So but like, intent and impact are not the same thing, Supreme Court and everybody out there. I didn't intend it, and I immediately got defensive. And that's often what we do when we're called racist or sexist. We get defensive, we go into fight or freeze, and our prefrontal cortex completely comes offline. We can't process anything. And what happened in that moment when I cried, it was I allowed myself to actually take in what those 2 men had said to me, and to take in the pain that was attached to that. They felt compelled to come up to me because they were like, people harass and insult us and call us that before they kill us, before they do violence to us. And there was clearly something traumatic for them around that word and violence. And I had to confront that. And I'm not a gay man. It's not my term to reclaim. Yeah. It's not. But the impulse to be defensive, the impulse to I got it wrong. I feel like we mess up also feels like a similar kind of survival response in the moment of and no one is woker than woke. We're all in a process, right? My community has called me out many times when I have been unaware or misspoken or whatever, but my hope is that we can give each other grace when the intention is with you guys. I know that you're in, from what I know about you from your public work anyway, that you're engaged in what I would say a leftist politic that is critical of capital, critical of this fascism. I think we can safely say this based on what I've seen. Yeah. So then in that case, there was another moment I was on a set shooting a show, and this amazing woman who I was working with used the T word that ends with a Y. And I was just like, girl, just so you know, a lot of trans people, if you said that in company with other trans people, it's considered a slur by a lot of trans people. And so you should be aware of that, and just, it's all good. She was like, she was so apologetic. She was she was upset. She sent me flowers. I was like, girl, this is too much. I'm like, I'm not bothered. When I was in the 90s, we used the T word here in New York. Trans women used it as a term to describe ourselves. I did look up the etymology of the T word that ends with the Y, and it actually did start. I think it was the research. This was years ago. But Al Goldstein, I think is his name. He started this Screw magazine, and I believe he coined the term, and he used it in porn to suggest a slutty trans woman. It was the etymology that I looked up. I looked this up probably 15 years ago. So whatever search I did 15 years ago came up with that, and I just remembered. All this stuff is floating around in my brain. So I forget stuff. So I get the etymology of it, and I get so at one point, because I used to use the word, and at one point I was just like, a lot of people in my community don't like it, so I'm not that tied to the word. So I was like, I won't use it. I don't need to. Totally. And then there's a lot of trans women who are reclaiming. So it depends on the company I'm in. Sometimes amongst yourself, when black people are with each other, we can say certain things we may not say in front of white people. But you, Gianmarco, you Straggett, you embrace that in your special. You embrace that in Beef of Joy.
And not
jokingly.
My this has got to stop. My this has got to stop. I have got to. This is for me. I need to stop replying when someone finds something not funny online. I recently got a little harsh. I speak harshly online. And
a lot of people, it's a thing.
Yeah,
people
it's a thing. But it was basically what happened.
What did you say?
I said, and I use it pretty, and I use it.
You
pretty.
Didn't mean it as in cunning. What is it? Cunning, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that is.
That is,
and I think we have to leave it for the YouTube. I think because it gets demonetized.
This is why we say cunning, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
He wasn't in the UK when he used it either.
Though I was in Australia for 3 weeks this year. But here's the bottom line. I speak harshly, and
so you call someone.
I called someone, and it was one of these things
You're having a hard time telling this. What's coming up for you emotionally?
No, because I just want to be like, I don't want to be like defensive. Without the same time, I don't want to lie about like what I believe.
You don't want to be defensive,
things.
but so your impulse, you're acknowledging that your impulse is to be defensive.
I feel I feel bad because, for example, I used it twice in Twitter replies like a week ago. One was a Zionist. Basically, I was saying that it's this not new thing, but recently, like if I'm with another Jew on a thing, they go like, "Oh, I hope they're not a Zionist," like as an automatic comment because we're Jewish. And I said something like, "This is this is a cool thing." And then of course the Zionist goes like, "You see, you fucking capo. This is what we were talking about." And I was like, yeah, that doesn't mean I'm pro genocide because I find this thing annoying that people are assuming I'm a Zionist because I'm Jewish. I don't need to then become a Zionist. And then they said, I just something. I said, what do you want from what? I don't know what you fucking cunts want. Now, I don't know. Now, no, of course, no one gave a shit because of, again, the intersectionality of beliefs where there is a degree with someone who's claiming that Israel deserves no criticism. There's kind of a fair game to use harsher language. But what happened in this particular case, someone quote tweeted,
that language is what actually gets attention online too. So that also that's kind of the, like when you talk like me, you get less attention online.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, it's like in that case, it was a further back where like some awful meme account. It was like women doing an exercise class with like on like balls where it looked like fun, and this meme account was being like, and not a single calorie was burnt or whatever. They were just making fun of the women, and I said, shut the fuck up, you cunt. And again, it's a faceless meme account. Mm-hmm. So
you just use cunt very like,
yes,
perhaps
you
just throw it out,
perhaps a bit too much. So in this particular case, there was a podcast clip that again, I had this. It's a thing whenever there's a guest who's a woman, there's an uptick in like critical comments in general. That doesn't excuse anything. It just is a reality. So something builds up, and every once in a while,
misogyny is real.
So someone
especially online.
Someone quote tweeted this clip, going, "I don't see what's funny here," which is fair. And I think normally with my stand up, I just let it go. Extra defensive because of a guest, whatever, doesn't excuse it. And I was very lame about it because I said, I think it was like circle back when you write a tweet that has more double-digit likes. Pathetic, lame, and then good luck, cunt. And the
disclaimers involved in this are deep. Go on.
Yes, and they're defensive, but I do want to paint the full picture of it. And that person identified as non-binary. I saw a cartoon. To my mind, I called a cartoon a cunt, but it wasn't. It was a non-binary person, and I got appropriately.
Did they say? What did they say back to you?
I don't want to. I don't think it was other people quote tweeting this.
Okay.
I don't want to turn it on. Whatever they said back to me
doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't change my poor behavior.
You shouldn't have. Yeah.
But so what was the realization though? Was it because they were non-binary that you questioned this? Have you questioned your use of cunt before this? What was it about this moment that made you question, I guess, how you're speaking online? Because this is what you said.
I'll tell you what it is. Where it's like, I think it's a not thinking of people as human beings online, period. So like, for example, with the meme account, it's like, I don't know what I don't know if it could be a room of guys or women or a room of non-binary people running the whole meme account. I have no idea. And because of that, I like, with all internet things, just, it all became fuck you. It just became a fuck you. And then when I do think of course, if you were to, I certainly like to believe that if I was at a live show, because we criticized this guy at a live show who's just like kind of being so awful to a woman in the audience. I like to believe that if a human being in front of me certainly who I would say is non-binary, that and they yelled at me anything or said you're not funny, that I wouldn't say that to them. Now, the part that I don't want to lie about is I do think if like a 45-year-old man bumped into me or said "fuck you," I might use that word. I don't want to lie, and
But that's kind of fun. But that's
evolve.
funny though. To use it, that's funny because you're a comedian. It's funnier to say it to a man.
Yeah, it's more like I don't want to lie about my relationship to the. I don't want to go sit up here and be like, I will never say this word again.
Yeah.
Because it's contextual, because even in one of your stand-ups, you said serving cunt.
Serving cunt, sure.
And serving cunt is very different than calling someone a cunt.
Yes. Yeah. But there's
language is
clearly,
contextual.
It is contextual, but I definitely don't think about the word with the severity, especially coming from a cis man, that what it could be. It was pathetic. Also, part of this is the response was pathetic. People can call me not funny. I've been doing this long enough. I don't have to do that ever. Yeah. I have a big account. There's no need to do that ever. And that is lame. And it's embarrassing.
For a comedian, like, I mean, so many people, I loved the way Hassan critiqued Dave Chappelle. He was like, yeah, these like, you're transphobic, yeah, but it's also just not funny. So the worst thing for a comedian is to not be funny. But the universe is working so well. My other two options for this has got to stop was like the Supreme Court. We got to stop them. We got to pack the courts. And the other one is dehumanization.
Yes.
And so I think even more than the use of the word cunt or like responding to people who don't find something funny, it's your relationship to the internet and dehumanization.
Well, yes.
I got rid of Twitter this weekend because I
made you quit Twitter.
Yeah, you made me quit Twitter because of the thing is I realized
really
Yeah, I realized I don't engage on there. I don't write things. I don't share things. I go and look and I was
that I shouldn't delete it.
I was realizing that it was like this is just getting me angry. Or it's now it's escalated to I don't even know I'm not even I used to see things that I'm like I'm getting updates sadly about Gaza or things like that. Now it's just like here's a horrifying video of a homeless man getting hit by a train. It's just videos of people dying or weird things, and then so it's not good, it's not funny content, it's not blah blah, and then it's just a place for people, blood in the water, people to get angry and to then spiral, and everyone's this and it gets and
everyone seems to be crashing out. I haven't engaged with Twitter. Whenever I see news reports, everyone's crashing out. It's like a crash outside. Everyone's crashing out.
And also
and rage baiting.
The amount of times in my life I've said to someone, I've mentioned something and they have no idea because it's not real. It doesn't. No one would have known outside of that app. No one knows that people are mad at you. It doesn't. It's not. And so part of it.
Luckily, no one listens to the podcast either.
Part of it is like it is the dehumanization. You're like those are real people, but then part of me is like they're not. It's not real. There. It doesn't real. It doesn't exist. In the real world.
There is. I mean. With that app, I think we have to be, but then that's when our media literacy with social media we have to have a critical relationship to what's being fed to us algorithmically. Obviously, that particular site under this particular owner has taken this deeply like Nazi turn. Like it's crazy, but I think it's like how do we because. The important thing around dehumanization is that it primarily happens with words and images, and when we dehumanize other people, we dehumanize ourselves. I often find myself on when I want to comment on something, and I often think like, oh, but what if I'm guilty of this? Like, and so that is kind of my barometer of like trying to just check myself. Do I want someone calling me out or calling me a hypocrite because I like call someone else out for this? And at the end of the day, it's like I kind of like I know I went on a screed about CJ earlier, but none of us is perfect. Like all of us are fallible, and like there's no space for that online. There's no space for that because everything is about attention. It's about people are trying to get clicks. People are trying to keep you. Companies are trying to keep you on the apps as long as possible, so they can make money and ad revenue and collect our data. So like.
It's just I think especially like who knows we talked in this. There was this viral clip of this guy just going at it, a woman in the audience who wasn't responding at all, And I
saw that.
Yeah, but reflecting on obviously kind of my own hypocrisy in my mind, I go, oh yeah, if I was at a show and of course one person wasn't laughing or many, I wouldn't just call them all cunts, and it's because it is like. It was a check in terms of not being this fucking needy and pathetic and thin-skinned, which I am thin-skinned. Yes, correct.
You're an artist and you're sensitive, but acknowledging that you're highly sensitive, I think it's really important to know your heart wiring. So then that. Hopefully, for me as a highly sensitive person, I don't go on X or Twitter, whatever the fuck it is, because I'm highly sensitive. Because I know that I'm going to be affected by something,
yes.
And so then you do what you need to do to protect yourself. But then when you're a comedian,
yourself, I was attacking, I was lashing out.
But that is also a huge part of comedy. I think, it's tricky. Like, 'cause I was thinking about for you and what you do. It's not funny when I went to my therapy session and my therapist was telling me that my picker has gotten better and that it's not my business what is other people think about me, that I'm really focusing on myself. That's not funny. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Comedy needs a bite. You have to rage against something. You have to sort of be opposed to something, comedically.
It wasn't funny, and it wasn't an attempt at a joke. It was a lashing out at, again, a non-personalized behemoth of people who don't like me.
It sounds like
but it was one person, and that's the part that I feel bad for. I don't. That's why there's all these kind of prefaces.
You began to imagine there was a real human being on the other side, and you weren't doing that before. And it sounds like you also have some self-consciousness around potential hypocrisy, and then ultimately a bad bit in not being funny.
Yeah, not being funny.
So it's layered.
It's layered. Just being lame. Just lame as fuck. Yeah. And so,
I embrace my cringe. I embrace my corniness. I'm corny as fuck. I'm cringe as fuck, and I kind of embrace it. But I mean, I'm not suggesting you should, but I'm just offering.
Sorry,
that.
guys, corny AF. No, but it was embarrassing.
Are you double jointed?
Yeah, good. Let's.
We got to end the podcast.
I'm thinking of my first tweet back. Guys, I'm double jointed.
I'm double jointed.
Why'd you take both your joints?
Your movement. Are you double jointed?
No, I was tested for Marfan's like most tall people are. No, it's just
I was never
restless.
tested for it. Oh.
Yeah,
restless.
I'm just restless. I
young and restless.
I don't know. Now I feel. Especially after this fucking, I start to feel very self-conscious about the
feel
way I
that.
move. There's just a degree of.
Did I make you feel self-conscious?
No, not you. There's just a degree of this. It definitely became a
thing.
It became a real megazord of people who don't like me for a lot of different reasons, and it really got to see the full palette of
people who don't like you.
About me.
I don't engage with that, but I did do recently. I've been meaning to do a video for YouTube, a People magazine interview I did on the red carpet, and the comment section was wild. But it was educational, and I did respond in the comment section. I generally don't engage with people who don't like me, but that can be content for you.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it'll be content for a while. It was educational for sure. I got a healthy education. I don't want to linger on it. I'll just I do apologize to the person that I called that word, and just being just you're more than welcome to not think I'm funny, and I cannot it cannot if someone doesn't think you're funny. All you can do is make them laugh.
But everything isn't for everybody. There is a different.
Right? I mean,
there's a taste thing. There's a taste thing
it's
with comedy.
Oh, you didn't like me before? Now try this.
Yeah.
Call them.
Yeah. And then they go, okay, good one. So I do apologize, and I feel very bad. But let's go to our final segment.
You better count.
There's something I want to
your blessings.
therapy with Gianmarco.
Hey, that would be great. That could be.
I know. I want to
go
be
to
your
therapy
therapist.
with Laverne Cox.
I want to be your therapist. Yeah.
Russell, do you have a blessing?
Actually, yeah, that
yes,
would be great.
my blessing. I was coming. Travel got all screwed up because the tour was canceled, and then our LA trip was canceled. So I had to get a last minute flight from Austin back to New York, and it was last minute. So they were like, there was like a middle seat in the thing, and then Nicole ended up, because of her status and things, I got bumped up to first class, and it was like a very generous of her to let me take the seat and not.
Nicole's your girlfriend, right?
My wife, yeah.
Wife, I'm sorry.
And that I was just like, that thing where you're like, me, big guy, middle seat in the back, like not even, there's no comfort, and so it was very generous.
Yeah, you texted me. You texted me how nice it was.
And also was like, this is just how all people should ride in. Like, it shouldn't be that crazy. It shouldn't be thousands and thousands of dollars. It's just a normal seat, and you get a water bottle when you sit down, and a little meal. Like, it really shouldn't be as crazy. It's bad.
But guess what? It's not moving in that direction right now.
No, it's not.
It's only getting worse.
But that, Nicole, I think it was very.
That's a very
generous specific thing that was made my life a lot.
I'll have to do it for Tovah someday. My blessing. Just my voice. It's still coming back, but we canceled some shows at Netflix. It was tough. I canceled a lot of shows, but at the end of the day, not that many. I was able to get the surgery quick. The surgeon did a great job. My assistant.
How many days were you not able to speak at all?
5 days, nothing, and then it was like 20 minutes today, 20 minutes tomorrow. And then
it seems like it must have been torture.
Yeah, but ultimately, like,
especially for you,
it was brutal.
I don't know you that well, but I have a feeling
it was tough. And we plotted out the road back meticulously and neurotically, but I think we did it correctly, because this festival, I did one long show. I went to this Netflix brunch, and thank God my voice was there, so I could chat it up with Theo Vaughn and Tony Hinchcliffe about just how much I admire their comedy. And
he's kidding, I assume. There is an ironic tone to that.
Thank you. I think if we could add that to more sections, just your voice specifically.
Yeah.
Hey, Laverne here. It's ironic, but my voice. It sucked. It was so scary. But I'm so fucking lucky.
But it was so bad that you had to get surgery. The
I had
nodules
to.
were really,
it was a polyp.
It was a polyp.
But I thank God for a super supportive team. So everyone, even patrons who didn't get a regular thing, and people whose shows I had to cancel. I'm so happy, and I hope to speak for many years to come. So thank you. Laverne, do you have a final blessing for us to close it out?
I have so many blessings. I do active gratitude every day. Brene Brown actually says that joy is the most difficult emotion to experience, because we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But people who are able to actively experience joy have an active gratitude practice, like a gratitude practice. So it's great that you're doing this blessing thing.
It's really working for me.
You're a work in progress. It's all good. I'm grateful for my girlfriends. Like, I mean, and that there's love in the world. Like, last week, I did a movie in LA, and I was gone for like 5 weeks, and like I had to record the audio book for my book that's coming out June 9th. Available for pre-order right now. Transcendent, Laverne Cox, my memoir. To the movie, like,
it's got to be tough for trans people as they keep writing books. They're gonna run out of every word that includes the word trans in it. Like, you really got
the title. Actually, it came from like I read
translucent.
No, it came from Emerson, Thoreau. Excuse me, from Thoreau's Walden. I read in like as a freshman in high school in transcendentalism. Like, I always, when I read Walden, I was just like, oh my God, this is transcendentalism. And I read about. I was like, this is what I wanted to do my whole life. You know, this is what I've longed for, to transcend all of this bullshit. So it really wasn't about trans. It was really about editor actually suggested that as a title because of after she read the passage I'd written about Walden. So really it came from like
and it's funny, like way later you're like, wait a second, guys.
It came from Henry David Thoreau, and I hadn't even thought about it. The trans part of transcendent. Literally until you just said it, which is weird.
What are you talking about? No way.
No, I really hadn't.
Are you serious?
Because I know where it came from. Because I thought about Walden and my relationship to Walden and the idea of transcending.
All right.
Yeah. But
it's a great title.
But thank you. But I hadn't seen my girls in a really long. I hadn't seen any of my friends in a really long time, and I isolate a lot, and since the pandemic, it's a bad habit, but I've been back in New York, and I hung out with my core group of girlfriends last Monday, a week ago today, and it was so healing. And I had been kind of in this weird place. I've been single for 2 years from Giuseppe, and I've been celibate. It just kind of happened. I just haven't had the desire to date, be on an app, swipe. I just not wanting to do that. I'm not wanting to deal with men. And luckily I'm not horny, thank God. So it's been great. But like maybe 3 weeks ago, it was a Saturday night and I was lying there alone and I was just like, no one has touched me. Like the cuddle, just craving like a touch or just a cuddle. And I for the first time, which is kind of amazing in 2 years, I actively missed that, and I was like, it would be nice to cuddle with. No one's touched me, and then I started. Since the breakup, I definitely I was like, because it started out, the relationship with the ex started out so brilliantly, and I was so in love, and I thought he was the one. I did. When you read about the good stuff or know about the good stuff, maybe you can think, I don't know. I felt this. I was madly, deeply in love, truly madly, deeply, and then when it went wrong, I was like, because my therapist was like, your picker's getting better, right? Because my book is in 3 sections. The first section is what's wrong with me. The second one is what happened to me, and the third one is what's right with me. And that's kind of the journey of healing from trauma, that we think that something's wrong with us, and then we realize that like we're. It's really about what happened to us and like how we responded and in our nervous systems and in our experience, and then. For a long time, when I focused on what happened to me, I focused on all the negative things that happened to me, but there was so much resilience in that child. So then what's right with me is it's the both and. It's like all these things happened that were traumatizing where I internalized all the shame, but there was resilience there too. But what one of my girlfriends said, your picker has gotten better. You were having the time of your life. And the second he talked crazy to you, you actually broke up with him. I got back together with him. But the next time, that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't go on for years in something that didn't serve me, that where I betrayed myself. I didn't. I didn't. And I was just questioning. It's like when you think you're madly in love with someone and they're the one, and then it goes horribly wrong. It's like, how do I know? Can I trust myself again? Yeah. And what these 2 different women in the group said to me, who know me and love me and see me, said to me, was like, yeah, it's I can trust myself. I can trust myself and trust and he didn't show those parts. He kept them.
Yeah.
He brought his representative, as some of the girls say, and and it takes time to get to know people. I showed up present, vulnerable, completely myself, utterly and completely myself, and was accepted as myself, I thought. But his behavior and the other side of who he was not unacceptable, and it was not compatible with my values. And so I got out. Mm-hmm. And so it's not that my picker is off and that I haven't made any progress. I think that's been the story that I've been in therapy for 26 years. I trauma resiliency work for 10 years, and I thought I was better, and I am. I am. And I needed and I know intellectually, but I was starting to question that because of Giuseppe and all his insanity. But so I'm grateful for my girls, and that to have that a person like real people in my life who tell me the truth and who can reflect back to me the truth of who I am. And I have not always had that, and what a fucking gift, because I do know what love is. I was not crazy. The love was real, because I know what love is, because I have friends who see me and love me unconditionally. I know love, and that is for me, that is, I love love, and it's everything. So that is what my
beautiful blessing.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
Tell people
I'm long-winded.
Tell people one more time the book, and we'll put the link for the pre-order in the episode description.
Thank you. My book, my long-awaited memoir. People have been asking me to write this for years. It's called Transcendent. It is available for pre-order right now. The Audible version, as well as the hardcover. The hardcover is so gorgeous. Actually, I have a copy.
Sure.
I forgot I had a copy. I can't give any out because they're like not yet.
Yeah.
But the book is freaking beautiful.
Wow.
I'm gonna try to hold the microphone. Look at this.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That's so
you probably can't do a
great.
close up. And my name is embossed in the paper. It's so elegant. And then the back.
Wow.
That's great.
It's my first naked photo shoot. I was like, what do I want to do for my first? I was like, I had never done. Well, I did a naked photo shoot for Elle magazine. I'm lying. But like, for myself and for the book, I thought, we got to sell books, honey. How do we get their attention? Do I look as two straight men? I know you're like,
it looks great.
It's fantastic.
Would this
wonderful.
Potentially get your dicks hard?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
That's me. That's just
Absolutely.
me.
We might have a row ad in here.
That's how I look. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Pre-order it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. You're both taken. I'm not gonna flirt. I'm a big old flirt. I love flirting, but this is my Transcendent. And it's really, it's my life. It's a story really about healing. It's a story about It's not like what happens to you. It's like how you respond to it, and it's like. I understand, there's this myth in America, if I can do it, you can do it. And there's so much in this world that has suggested to me, because of the intersections of like identities I have, that I shouldn't have the career I've had. But I've always believed it. I've seen it for myself, and I almost gave up. And then don't give up before the miracle. Keep going and keep proceeding with love and passion. But then also, we do need systemic change as well. I'm like the fact that like even when people were telling my mother to take me out of dance classes, those dance classes were going to make him gay. They were wrong. I'm a straight trans woman. My mother kept me in those dance classes, and my mother was a teacher who emphasized education, and those are incredible privileges that saved my life and set me up to live the life I'm living now. So, arts education, education period. But we need systemic change as well. But one person's story, I think hopefully like, even in the face of like the world telling you all this stuff about yourself, and then you internalizing it, that like, believe in who you fucking are. Like, fuck all the people who don't think you're funny. Like, one of the things that can I say this? One of the reasons I love you is that there are moments when you are on stage where you're so unapologetically yourself, and like, a little femme, a little like very femme sometimes, like that you allow all of that, and there's something really beautiful about that, and it's not like any other comedy that I've seen, and you're political but you manage to be funny. So just like do what you're gonna do, suggestion, not a but just it's important to remember, and hopefully you'll find some connection in the story. But like what I'm kind of taking away today from like my story, it's like and just like the fear that I've had about like speaking truth to power over the past like year, especially, I've lost so many opportunities because there's so much investment from trans people. I at the Animal Farm premiere. I have a movie. Animal Farm is in theaters right now. I play oh my Snowball. I play Snowball. And at the Animal Farm premiere, I was like, it's Orwell. I can tell the truth here.
Yeah.
And I just felt like myself. I feel like myself today, talking about my walls being tight, as well as talking about, the current political situation and whatever, I need to be myself, and I need to be unafraid to be myself because I'm all I got.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Russell, where can people find you?
At Russell J. Daniels on Instagram.
I'm everywhere at Gianmarco Soresi. And get the book, Gianmarco Soresi.
And we have a tour.
We have a tour. Oh, yeah. We'll record it on Wednesday. We will.
Yeah.
But join the Patreon.com/downside. And Laverne, when you're ready, I know some really good-looking Italian cops. So just you. This is the downside.